My name is Margaret Downey, and I am the founder and president of the Freethought Society. Thanks for logging in early to see Seth Andrews' pre-event video submission. He sent us an interview of Hector Garcia as a prelude to his own presentation, I Sold My Soul, on Twitter. Hector Garcia is a clinical psychologist and author. Now, together, they address tribalism. So please enjoy the pre-event presentation of Seth Andrews' interview of Hector Garcia.
Dr. Hector Garcia, how do I introduce you? What's your title? What do you do?
I am a clinical psychologist. I work primarily with vets with PTSD, mostly vets who've been to combat. And I write books and do research, things of that nature.
Talk a lot about the brain, why we think what we think, why we feel what we feel. And I just want to jump right into the deep end. Tribalism, fear of the other. It's everywhere. Can you talk to me about this tendency towards wanting tribes and tribalism in the human condition?
I can, and I think it explains a lot of the problem in human thriving that we see today.
Okay, everybody's got to be quiet now.
As you know, is really strongly grounded in the evolutionary sciences, and one of the things that I often come back to is this understanding that we evolved in small knit, close groups of people living in tribal societies, topping off at about 150 people, who solved problems of daily living, of survival together. And in many ways, we're kind of constrained by those parameters, by the group size and the dynamics of those tribes. So this is somewhere where our instincts begin to maybe be a mismatch with how we live in the modern day in these giant societies of people we don't know. We're very good at cooperating with people we don't know, but you can see where our tribalistic psychology strains against how we live today. One good example is COVID-19 suspicion about COVID-19 as a hoax, or vaccines being safe, or things of that nature. How could that possibly be in the modern day when we know so much about medicine, we know so much about the course of disease? A great explanation of that has become a badge of tribal commitment to reject vaccination efforts, to suspect COVID-19 itself as a hoax. We've heard this in American popular culture, unfortunately.
Tribal fears used to be necessary, right? I mean, the survival mechanism, is that right? I know it's a cliche, but I'm on the African savannah, right? And the fear of the other may have kept me alive. Is that a good way to put it? No?
Fear of the other, and unfortunately, fear of your own tribe, fear of being rejected from your own tribe. We are relatively weak, frail, slow creatures compared to the other animals on the African savanna that we evolved alongside, right? But what we really had, our biggest adaptation, was one another. Today, all other animals live at our mercy. So without the tribe, we're defenseless. I mean, just think of the implications of being abandoned on the African savanna. We wouldn't survive a day, So there's a fear of being rejected from the tribe that goes way deep, that goes deep into the survival portions of our brain, the amygdala and other structures that are, it's very ancient. But not only fear of being abandoned by the tribe, but fear of the tribe itself. So a biological anthropologist out of Harvard named Richard Wrangham wrote an amazing book called The Goodness Paradox, where he makes a good case for the idea that one of the things that helped humans be domesticated, in a sense, be more peaceable with one another, is that we policed our own tribes and murdered people who got out of hand, who were too aggressive. And that went along for such a long time that that also contributed to a fear that we have of our own group. And it wasn't just those who were overly aggressive. For other infractions, for just not towing the line of the tribe, for not any kind of social deviance could put you at risk. The witch hunts of our history, you could say.
How do we approach beliefs that are linked to identity? Is it true that the amygdala, the fight or flight, the same response to a physical threat kicks in when there's an ideological threat? Like if you come after me, does the same part of my brain activate?
There's some amazing research looking at people going against the stances of their own political party, but some of this has been done in an MRI machine, and yeah, the fear, pain, threat centers of the brain really light up, which really speaks to the idea that, hey, going against the tribe for a significant part of our history was a very dangerous proposition. And when you try to approach people on the plane of ideas, and in doing so, you maybe force a look at their tribe, or force somebody to question their tribe or challenge their tribe, you're going to get pushback, and people are going to block that because of the fear that engenders. A lot of it's unconscious, So I think we need to understand more about our tribalistic psychology in general, and if and how those defenses get sparked by how we approach different topics, and how those defenses prompt us to fight one another in the streets, as we've seen in recent years.
So you're talking about kind of a societal, cultural, familial, tribal consequence in place, right? Toe the line, be us, represent us, wave the standard, or else. There's a punitive measure in place.
Absolutely, and even if it's not opprobrium, even if it's not rejection, even if it's not violent, it's or anything like that, there's still a great fear that we all have of going against our group, and so that explains in many ways why people will hold ridiculous beliefs. The Earth is flat. Microsoft is injecting chips into our bodies so they can track us. There was one recently about JFK returning to Dallas or something.
Yeah, going to Dallas to become Trump's running mate in 2024.
The absolutely patently absurd, unless you consider the fact that holding the tribal line, so to speak, really meant a lot to us in our ancestral past, and it may have meant life or death, and it may show commitment to the tribe to believe something that's outlandish. That's a hard to fake signal, right? If you believe something that's outlandish, you're really showing, and you express it publicly, you're really showing commitment to the tribe.
Well, you're the psychologist. How much of that speaks to ego? I'm sorry you're one of the sheeple. I'm sorry that you accept the party line. Do you think that serves the ego in some way?
I do think it serves the ego, right? I know something that you don't know. I have knowledge that you don't know. It's privileged knowledge. But, our egos don't stop at the individual. We have cultural identities, we have tribal identities, and we have, I think there's some interesting research looking at how groups have their own self-esteem, and there can be threats to that self-esteem by other groups. And so we try to maintain our self-esteem through group identity. And that's where it gets tricky. That's where the blinders come on.
I'm interested again in how we caricaturize the other, right? I mean, someone looks at a Muslim and they only see the caricature of the Muslim, or this sort of inflated idea of what a Muslim is, but they don't know any Muslims, right? The atheist, they have this opinion about those godless, immoral, rudderless atheists, but they don't really know any atheists, or they're not aware of it. They tend to other people on their own terms. I don't know, I'm guessing that's a common human tendency, right? It's easier to hate the caricature than it is if I was to see them in 3 dimensions, a flesh and blood human being, right?
Sure. Our definitions of the other tend to be overly simplistic, and
I mean, atheists do it too. The religious are like this.
sure.
And of course, religions are so wildly complicated. You can't put them in a box. They don't fit on a bumper sticker. But, we're guilty as part of the human condition of saying they are this, right?
The differences between all humans is it's not a categorical difference. There are subtle differences. We have far more similarities than we do differences. But given that tribal psychology, we tend to exaggerate those differences, and that speaks to a time when we were way more likely to die at the hands of the tribe over the hill than we are today. We've gotten infinitely more civil with one another, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize. When you look at contemporary hunter-gatherers, for example, up to 30% of men in particular in these societies are killed in intertribal warfare. Imagine any city you live in and 30% of the men getting killed. We've become exponentially more civil to one another, but we still retain that psychology that fears the outside tribe. And that again is where I think that calls for a deeper understanding of our evolved psychology and how it gets played out today, and how it serves to limit human thriving and our ability to cooperate. Look at how we're cooperating. Look at our failures of cooperation against COVID-19. There is a large sector of the population in the United States that is anti-vax. And it's become a tribal thing. The other tribe believes in this. They believe in this vaccine. We don't.
How do you break through that? I mean, I'm not asking the question, Dr. Garcia, how do we fix the world? I'm not putting that on your shoulders. Right. But how do you break through? How do we reconnect in this increasingly disconnected world?
Science literacy, media literacy. I mean, it's very easy to get divided in that way if the more you tap into the major networks who purposefully divide us. You have to look at these. You have to look at information with a critical mind, or you get manipulated. You have to understand your own evolved psychology, or others will manipulate you with it. And often, it serves the powerful, moneyed interest to separate us, to manipulate us, in many ways. But what happens is that cohesion breaks down, and again, we'll fight each other in the streets, or families will break apart because there are these outside forces pushing our tribalistic buttons, so to speak.
You think awareness of it maybe is one of the first steps?
That's one of the first steps.
Yeah. I have this evolved tendency. It's there. I'm hardwired, but being aware of it might allow me to, how would I say it, override my programming a little bit?
It would be like good psychotherapy. I think the evolutionary sciences are like good psychotherapy. It may not always show you what you want to see, but it'll show you what you need to see. And a lot of it is outside of our conscious awareness, just like some of the dynamics that may be uncovered in psychotherapy. In fact, there's a term for that called instinct blindness. Like most of our instincts fly under the radar of our conscious awareness. So bringing them to the surface for examination, we need that. We need that desperately, because there are people who are manipulating those evolved psychologies that we carry around with us.
Dr. Hector Garcia, thanks for talking to me.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the Freethought Society's April meetup. I hope those of you who logged on early enjoyed Seth Andrews' video, his pre-event warm-up session. My name is Michael Stephen Martin, and it is my pleasure to be the Zoom coordinator for the Freethought Society and your co-host for today's event. All right, we're running a few minutes late, so I'm going to officially start today's session by spotlighting the Freethought Society board member, David Rice. He is going to tell you a little bit about the Freethought Society and welcome you to the event. Dave.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome everyone to the Freethought Society's April 30th Zoom meeting. The Freethought Society serves as a local forum in which freethinkers can meet virtually, socialize, and exchange ideas. The mind of a freethinker is not restrained by superstitions or prescribed dogmas that tell us what we can and cannot think. While some today would suppress independent thought, freethinkers know that the unrestricted exchange of ideas have been the primary forces of progress in all civilizations. As freethinkers, we want to better ourselves and our community through the unrestrained application of reason and human endeavor to address the local and global problems that confront us. On the screen, you will see a list of Freethought Society volunteer opportunities, and we hope one of our committees will be of interest to you. We would welcome your participation.
Quick, I'm sorry, I'm going to share that screen here with you in just a second. There we go. Thanks, Dave.
Yep. Great. So the Freethought Society is a nonprofit 501c3 educational organization. This is why we hope you will be moved to make a donation today. A donation link will appear in the chat section a few times during this event, but if you miss it, the link is very simple. It is ftsociety.org/donate. Great. And now, Freethought Society founder and president, Margaret Downey, will introduce our speaker. Margaret.
All right. Well, thanks, David. You know, I've known today's presenter, Seth Andrews, for quite a few years, and I've enjoyed hosting him as a conference speaker as well as being interviewed by him several times. Seth is an author and speaker on the subject of atheism. He is the creator and host of the Thinking Atheist online community. It's a podcast and a YouTube channel. Seth is the author of the self-published books Deconverted and Sacred Cows. Prior to his atheist activism, Seth was a fundamentalist Christian and had a 10-year career as a Christian radio host. Unfortunately, Seth had a family obligation today, so he kindly submitted his presentation through a pre-recorded video. It does not negate his message, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it very much. And we will discuss the presentation afterwards, and Seth welcomes questions you may have for him. He has requested that we forward any questions you have, and he will write back to you directly. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing Seth's beautiful voice, learning more about his work, and seeing his great sense of humor as he presents his speech entitled, "I Sold My Soul on Twitter."
And ladies and gentlemen, there will be a few seconds of empty space as this video starts, but rest assured you will hear it momentarily. The video is starting, and we should see Seth popping on the screen here in just a moment.
I want to say a huge thank you out to the Freethought Society. Margaret Downey has been a dear friend of mine for a long time, somebody I tremendously admire. You know, there's those people that you run across in your life and you see the work that they have done over the course of even decades, and you think, wow, you know, this person's really made a difference, and as someone I want to emulate in my own life. And you know, without making the speech about Margaret, she's the one who had extended the invitation on behalf of the organization. But to all of you, thank you for your good work. Thanks for standing up for reason. You know, thanks for working together to try to make this planet a little bit more reasonable when there's so much insanity out there. The presentation that I have today, I'm calling "I Sold My Soul on Twitter." So in my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's an on-ramp to the Creek Turnpike. It's a toll road. And it's about 91st and Riverside. Not that that really matters to you, but there's 2 lanes, okay? And I've got a diagram so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So, you know, toll tag, whatever you call your toll roads. This is Pike Pass in the state of Oklahoma. So you've got an account. If you register with the state, you've got a Pike Pass on the windshield, and you can just drive through at high speed on the left and save yourself a few extra seconds in the trouble. Or if you don't have a Pike Pass, you go through on the right, and you grab some change, and you throw it in the hopper, and you're good to go. So I'm cruising along, and there's this guy in front of me who had taken the fast track on the left, but he just stopped right there under the frame of the toll booth, and it's obvious, something was going on. He had totally blocked the path, and I realized he'd made a mistake. Didn't have a pike pass. He was going to get fined if he didn't stop and pay his due. And so he got out of the car and he ran over to the coin hopper and he started tossing in a few quarters, dimes, nickels, whatever he had. He was obviously distressed and horrified. And then he ran back to his vehicle. But it hadn't been enough money. Whatever he tossed in wasn't enough to cause the green light to come up. And the cars are starting to really line up behind me. Okay, people are starting to stack up. And he is going through his car, obviously trying to find more coins. I'm sure he's going through the center console and the seat cushions and everything, under the door, whatever he can. Under the seats, I need more money. And he runs back to the coin machine a second time. And the whole time, there's this huge line of cars, of people behind him, and they're agitated. This poor guy, humiliated. But the people behind me, you could feel it. I think I heard some horns honking, and, he turned around and he gave a gesture of apology. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I didn't mean to do this, whatever. And he hops in the car and he takes off at high speed to get on the highway, right? He wants to put the whole thing behind him. And I found myself sitting there kind of bemused. And I was thinking about it as he cruised on the highway and I was right behind him. And I thought about his little mishap. And I thought about all the people who had lined up behind me. You can hear them. You can just hear them in your head. Behind the wheel, pounding on the dash. What's the matter with this idiot? Where did you learn to drive? The instructions are right there. If you don't have a pike pass, what are you doing in the pike pass lane? Get off the road, you idiot. We've all heard or perhaps even said some of these things in our own lives. And I thought about what had just transpired. And I thought, what did that cost me, really? In the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, it was 90 seconds out of my day. It's not like he intended to make a mistake or be wrong. He didn't intend to pick the pike pass lane. He obviously screwed up, but to his credit, rather than not pay the toll and get a ticket in the mail or whatever, he decided he was going to do the right thing. He was going to try to fix it. And, I was sitting behind the wheel. I knew what was going on. Why didn't I jump out of the car to give the guy a hand? I just sat there watching this all play out, kind of maybe smirking, If I'd known the guy, what if he'd been a friend or a family member? Somebody known to me, somebody in my in-group, I'll bet I would have jumped out of the car and said, hey, man, you need some money? I got some cash. No, that's the pike pass lane. Here, let's fix this. Let's go, And I thought about all the raging and honking and screaming drivers behind me. And I thought, this scenario is a lot like Twitter. And I'm going to explain what I'm talking about here in just a second. Now, I don't know who that guy was. He had a Texas plate, so maybe he didn't know how the system worked or whatever. I didn't know where he'd come from. I didn't know what kind of a day he had. What was his background, his backstory? Had there been some sort of a mishap earlier? Had he had a bad day at work or lost his job or had a squabble with his wife, or did he have other issues going on? Was he a great guy who had just made the mistake of being human? He had committed the heresy of inconveniencing the rest of us. And relating back to Twitter and our encounters with wrong people, how productive were my online encounters like this? I saw a guy named David on Twitter, and he posted a clip which I think pretty much sums up most encounters today on social media, especially Twitter.
¿Qué opina usted del gobierno de Zapatero? Pues igual que yo. ¿Y qué opina usted? ¿Qué opina usted? ¿Qué opina usted del gobierno canario? ¿Y de los ayuntamientos de la isla?
It's funny because it's true, right? Social media, one of the most powerful tools for communication, learning, and connection. Perhaps the most powerful tool ever created, ever invented. And sometimes it feels like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, etc. They were invented so we could do this to each other. Have you seen this online? This is one of the reasons I dread logging onto social media. And I use and can enjoy social media, but most of the time, this is what I see. Everybody just screaming at each other and flipping each other off. We engage so quickly. We knee-jerk so quickly against whatever perceived enemy crosses our path. We are on the team of the smart and the wise and the superior and the enlightened, and those people are total idiots. And many of us have gotten swept up in the moment. I think we're all guilty, especially activists, people who genuinely want to engage the world. I think we are all or have been guilty of something. This wrong must be righted. Whoever shouts the loudest wins. How many times had I thrown myself voluntarily down the rabbit hole of rage? Natalie could always tell, and she still can, when I've been fighting online. I walk down the stairs from my office, and she's downstairs, and she sees me, and, I'm scowling, and my jaw is set, and there's a vein popping out of my forehead. My whole disposition is just rigid. And she will ask me, she'll say, honey, have you been arguing on the internet again? And, of course, I'd lie and say, well, of course not, honey. No. But she's on to me. She knows my stuff. She knows what I'm like. Someone was spreading bad information. Somebody was spreading awfulness online. I felt a moral obligation to stand up for what is right and to counter. But was I really changing anything? I mean, if I look at that specific encounter with a random stranger on the internet who ended up sucking up, maybe an hour of my day or more, had I really changed the world? Had I made a positive difference, a meaningful difference? You've probably seen this meme. It said, wow, that internet argument completely changed my fundamental belief system, said no one ever. Now, don't freak out on me. I'm not saying social media cannot be and has not been a worthy or beneficial platform for spreading ideas, for promoting good ideas and countering bad ones. Nor am I saying that minds have never been changed online when someone has been presented with a counter-apologetic or a different point of view. I'm not saying it does not happen, but how often in my own life, and I became more and more aware of this, how often in my own life did I sit there, my 30-second opinion tweet I considered to be activism when, in fact, at least for me, it may have been nothing more than slacktivism. The practice of supporting a political or social cause with social media or online petitions characterized as involving very little effort or commitment. I mean, was I kidding myself? I'm going to mash out a tweet and send it and the great warrior has gone out and changed the world. So there are billions of social media accounts out there. I'm a needle in a stack of needles, right? Even with the popular channel, relatively popular. My channel is popular, but I'm if you want some humility in this world, you realize that while one of my videos might get 100,000 views, the water skiing squirrel has like 400 million views. So how much of a difference was I really making out there? Could I be heard above the white noise? And, thank you for your service, Internet Keyboard Warrior. You have fought the good fight. The enemy vanquished. Oh, it feels so good to win. You may have seen this one, how I feel when winning an argument. I feel the rush. I feel the satisfaction. I feel the warm glow of superiority. Well, we get high. Our brains actually get high. We get a rush from feeling superior, from, these illusions of grandeur. We go in, we fight, we feel like we won, and then we get the dopamine hit, And in my own life, I think I'd become an addict to this dopamine rush. I'd become an internet arguing addict, and I go back for another hit, and then I want to go back for another hit, and I'd feel that rush of validation back and forth. Hey, that's a great reply. Oh, that's clever. Oh, a devastating retort. I'm going to share that. Well, I'm going to screenshot this, and then I'll reshare that, make a meme of it, and look at all the people who are coming in to rush to my defense, and it's us versus them, and blah, blah, blah. We feel even smarter. Valerie Tirico is a psychologist. Dr. Tirico posted this quote. I'm not familiar with who the guy is, but I do like what they said. He is, I know this much, a British Indian humanist writer, and he said, before social media, people were often judged by their deeds. Now they're mostly judged by their opinions. Being good requires no kindness, only the right memes and hashtags, and those revered as saints need no heart of gold, only a silver tongue and a brazen nature. Man, that had been becoming true in my life. You know, I enjoyed that rush, that feeling of, posting the right thing at the right time with a hashtag and a big dose of sarcasm on top. I felt the endorphin rush. But did that good post, or what I consider to be the good post, mean I was a good person? Did it mean I was acting in a constructive way? Was I virtuous, or was I signaling my virtue, or both? I really had to do a moment of self-examination and self-analysis, I'd start an argument on my phone, and then I'd segue in, and I'd be at the office computer, and then I'd go back to my phone downstairs during lunch. I'd be browsing, and then I'd go to the laptop because I'm doing something else, and back to my phone, and I'd check in. Sometimes I'd waste the whole freaking day. A whole day I would be checking in on the progress of this online feud. And I was becoming addicted, hooked on outrage. I became the misery that seemed to love the company of the miserable. Is that weird? And I realized how often had I just gotten suckered in by a troll or some malcontent, somebody out there who was, pawing at me and desperate for the oxygen that I might give them. Smirking to themselves as I had spent hours and hours and hours and hours engaging with all the inflammatory things that they had said, often to purposely push my buttons, right? I allowed them. I said, here are the buttons. Go ahead and push them, Sometimes this could go on for days. I think there are some people out there who are desperate for the currency of our time and attention. And a lot of those people, I was paying off. I was paying them generously. I also realized there was something happening to my heart. I was changing. I was more and more becoming hard and jaded, and I could just feel part of my heart, part of my emotion centers, my empathy centers, my humanity centers. I could feel them going numb. I felt increasingly isolated and frustrated. I wasn't seeing humanity as human as much. My empathy center shutting down. I was turning to stone. And I suddenly started to realize this. I'll tell you a story. I'm not proud of this story. I'm embarrassed and humiliated by this story. But it serves the point, the larger point I'm trying to make. And so I'm going to just throw it out there for your consideration. So I traveled a lot for work even before I became a full-time activist. And this is back when I was a video producer. I used to work for a video company here in town. And we travel almost every weekend during our busy season. So I was at, I think it was Houston International Airport, and I was waiting on my connection. And I had to go up an escalator. There's a second floor area, as I recall. And I get up off the top of the escalator, and I look down, and there were a bunch of paramedics, medical workers. And they were tending to somebody. And he was laid out on a stretcher, and they had all these things on him. They had pads around his neck, and they had him secured in. And I don't know if there were IVs. I don't know what they were doing, And this is probably 12 years ago, 10, 12 years. And I look down, and I see this guy. No idea who he is. I have no idea what happened to him. This is a stock photo, by the way. This isn't the shot of the poor guy at the airport. This is just a photo I'm using to help illustrate the point, to give you the visual, right? What was my first response in that moment? And I can't believe I did this. My first response was to reach down, grab my cell phone, and start taking video. I started just sort of documenting the scene. I wasn't going to put it online or anything. I wasn't going to put the guy on the internet, but I might show it to Natalie or a few friends. I don't even know really all that I was thinking. For some reason, my first instinct was to grab a phone and just treat the guy like an object, a subject. I couldn't see his face. I didn't think first about his privacy or his well-being. My first thought was, I need to get some footage. And then one of the paramedics looked up and saw me and called me out. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, get out of here, you know. Stop it. And immediately I got this flash of embarrassment. And I threw my phone back in my pocket and I rushed away. And I felt this overwhelming avalanche of shame. I mean, I was so ashamed. I'm still ashamed. How had my heart become so jaded, so callous, so closed off that, you know, I look at this guy, you could have had a heart attack or a stroke or an aneurysm, or he could have fallen and broken something, you know, whatever. Who knows what happened? My first thought was, I need to treat him like a subject for my little feature film, you know. Why wasn't I treating him like a valuable member of the human condition? He was some prop. How did I get to a place where I would even consider treating somebody in this way? And in what other capacities, in what other places, in what other forums was I doing the same thing, dehumanizing my fellow human beings? Now, mentally, I'm back at the toll booth, okay? On the internet, in my mind, I'm thinking of the toll booth. I'm looking down from the high mountain. I'm in my comfortable chair, and the self-appointed arbiter of what is right and what is good and what is noble. And, how was I treating flesh and blood people that I was looking at from a distance? People I considered to have the audacity to be wrong. Especially on the internet, there seems to be a thinking, and the thinking goes like this. In many cases, certainly not all, but a lot of people seem to think if you are wrong, then you are bad. And if you are bad, then you are garbage. And we hear this term used all the time on the internet. You're human trash, you're a garbage person, that kind of thing. I'm not saying it never applies. I'm not saying there aren't people out there who are just, it almost seems like beyond, maybe not, but it almost seems like they're beyond redemption. They are toxic in every way possible. I mean, I'm not saying those people don't exist, but we apply this really liberally out there, don't we? Dr. Arthur Brooks is a social scientist, and he's a columnist for the New York Times. He wrote an article a few years ago called Our Culture of Contempt, and it addressed the study that had been done by the National Academy of Sciences that talked about something called motive attribution asymmetry, where each side thinks it is driven by benevolence, while the other is evil and motivated by hatred, and is therefore an enemy with whom one cannot negotiate or compromise. We are righteous, they are evil, they can't be reasoned with, therefore they must be destroyed. How noble we sound, how horrible they are. I'm really struck by a very human tendency that affects people in almost every group, tribe, or culture. And that tendency is an evolved one. It is tribalism, the exaltation of the tribe above other groups. Groups that are defined by loyalty. They reflect us, our personalities, our interests, our common goals. Religious people have their tribes. Political parties have their tribes. Atheists, agnostic, humanists, seculars have their tribes. Artists and philosophers and sports fans and communities and cities and nations have their tribes, right? In group, out group. Tribalism. This is a very real human tendency. There's a lot of utility in depersonalizing the other, dehumanizing. If we strip away their humanity, we draw them in one dimension or maybe two dimensions. It makes us easier to go out and decimate them. We find that this is common in militaries, right? How do you go out and destroy, utterly destroy, kill, decimate an enemy that is a human being? Well, you take away the humanity in that human being. You give them a nickname, you see them in one dimension, you train on these sort of mannequins or cardboard cutouts so that you begin to mentally see them only in one dimension as a thing instead of a fellow human being, because it's a lot easier to kill a thing than it is to kill a person. Violence against an enemy can be hugely traumatizing, don't get me wrong, but I think we can see how the dehumanization is a tool for us to be able to go out and declare war. and annihilate the other, And then you see online, it's nothing but this kind of thing, You're human garbage, you're filth, you're disgusting, you're a piece of shit, you're trash, And, we tend to jump into that arena so quickly. This person is so awful, so wrong, so terrible that they are beyond redemption, and they must be utterly destroyed. A lot of this speaks to tribal thinking, an evolved tribal tendency. The very things that help keep us alive, to help us survive and thrive in the African savanna, those very tendencies are often causing us to act in pretty terrible and divisive ways. Somebody isn't lining up. Somebody has the audacity to disagree or be wrong, right? And then what do? In-groups do this to each other. We have like in-group loyalties. So if somebody within our tribe has the audacity to be wrong or human or flawed or whatever, we'll take them from the in-group and we will call them garbage, and we will then place them in the out-group, and then we can further dehumanize them as somebody beyond redemption who must be destroyed. I did an interview with Dr. Hector Garcia. He's a psychologist who had been talking about tribes and tribalisms, in-groups and out-groups. And we talked about how tribes do this to others and also do this sort of, this sort of excommunication to members of their own group. Here's what he said.
So a biological anthropologist out of Harvard named Richard Wrangham wrote an amazing book called The Goodness Paradox, where he makes a good case for the idea that one of the things that helped humans be domesticated, in a sense, be more peaceable with one another, is that we policed our own tribes and murdered people who got out of hand, who were too aggressive. And that went along for such a long time that also contributed to a fear that we have of our own group. And it wasn't just those who were overly aggressive. For other infractions, for just not towing the line of the tribe, for not any kind of social deviance could put you at risk. The witch hunts of our history, you could say.
Even a wrong opinion in so many cases can be offered up in good faith with a genuine desire for good. Some of the disagreements that we have actually just come down to tactics. And here's an example, and this is a hot one, but I'm sharing it with you in good faith in the hopes that we can consider and discuss it. So I have a friend. He's like me. He's a white guy about my age. And we talked about Black Lives Matter. Well, I'm not virtue signaling here as a white guy. I have a point I'm trying to make. So I've spoken to a lot of people, Mandisa Thomas at Black Nonbelievers, and Will Judy, who is the Texas State Director for American Atheists, et cetera, about Black Lives Matter and the utility of sort of drawing a circle around highlighting a specific demographic that has been marginalized for so very long, in the hopes of trying to elevate them to fix the systemic problems that have challenged them for so long. And for that reason, I really do support Black Lives Matter. I myself think it's a worthy endeavor. And my friend, he doesn't see Black Lives Matter as helpful. Now, he's not one of these all lives matter guys who is essentially using his concern to mask racism. And I think this is rather naive, but he believes that you're not going to beat racism by highlighting a specific demographic of color and cordoning them off. So he has this, I think, kind of utopian notion that, we are all the human race. We are all Africans. And I get that. I totally understand that. He doesn't think that we single out black people, but rather try to use other tactics and mechanisms to focus on all of humanity without drawing hard color culture lines. And again, I appreciate his heart on this. I'm not convinced. I think it's a little bit naive. Now, this opens the floodgates to the highly contentious discussions about identity politics. And there will be people who would look at my friend and say, racist. Right? Throw the label right at him. He's a racist. He's either racist in his heart, he has racist ideas, or he's participating or endorsing a system that is enabling racism, so he's guilty by association. I know the guy. I've seen and talked to him behind closed doors. I have never, ever, not once, ever heard or seen any indication that he wants anything other than what we want, which is racial equality across the planet, across the spectrum, right? He is a human rights activist and advocate. Our disagreement isn't about racial equality and humanity. Our disagreement is about tactics. And I myself lament how quickly we outgroup somebody like him. And we turn on somebody like him, and we start throwing the Molotov cocktails at somebody like him and dehumanize him. He is now the enemy. He must be destroyed. Now, I have seen some people out there who will weaponize a worthy cause. I mean, in every tribe, there will be toxic people. We've all seen it. Somebody who is acting in a terrible way, they're awful to their fellow human beings, they've got really bad ideas, they're just vitriolic and nasty. I mean, human beings, right? We'll find this in every single tribe. And one tactic that I have seen among some of those people in every tribe is they will take a worthy cause, or what they deem to be a worthy cause, and they will put it up in front of them, front and center. So I'll see somebody who takes the cause of racial equality, a worthy cause, or gender equality, or reproductive rights, or whatever. And they'll have this sort of held out as a shield in front of them while they're acting in really untoward ways, toxic ways. And so you and I, with genuine concern, say, hey, wait, I'm not convinced that this is helping. I think you may be harming people. I think you may be acting in an unconstructive way. I don't like the way that you're treating other people. This is not our solution, right? You go and you say that. Then they are able to take the cause and they shove it up front and say, well, if you disagree with me or criticize me, you must be criticizing the cause. You're an enemy of racial equality, gender equality, reproductive rights. I mean, it's a tactic. And we have seen, it's difficult to say this out loud, but it's true. And we have all seen instances where toxic people will weaponize worthy causes to insulate themselves from legitimate, compassionate criticism. You are the enemy of the cause if you dare to counter or criticize me. And here we go again. You're wrong, you're bad, you're garbage. Now, as I attempt consideration and even nuance in this discussion, I have to admit, and I'll admit outright, agents of awfulness do exist, right? They exist. Binary thinkers are already just going, well, Seth says we should be nice to Nazis. It's part of the challenge that we face here. No. There are some people who need to be nuked from orbit. I have no sympathy or compassion for Ben Shapiro, right? He's just one of those guys. He's doing so much damage. He's so destructive, right? The Fox lineup. I wrote a whole book called Confessions of a Former Fox News Christian. I'm not going soft on Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. They get no latitude from me. Lauren Boebert, she's doing tremendous damage out there. Hate Pastor Greg Locke, I've done whole videos and podcasts on the toxicity and the awfulness and the hate and the filth coming out of his mouth. I don't go soft on the insurrectionist of January 6th, the Christian nationalist who busted into the state capitol for a Christian exercise in illegality and domestic terrorism. I don't go soft on the millionaire mega pastors like Joel Osteen, right? Guy's worth what? $50 million, lives in a $10 million house while he's surpassing the offering plate, selling Jesus to the masses. I don't go soft on that guy. I'm not going soft on the evangelical zealots who are stacking the United States Supreme Court because it affects so many things and so many people. Of course, I'm taking a hard stand. I'm not saying that there aren't times to point the finger, to expose, to shine the white hot light, to beat the drum of alarm and opposition in the face of injustice and untruths. Sometimes you have to release the Kraken. And I've always liked this image. I made this years and years ago. This is from the old Clash of the Titans film, the Kraken. Sometimes you got to unleash the Kraken. In our engagement with religious adversaries, political adversaries, ideological adversaries, there are hard targets. I don't know how much more clear I can be. There are hard targets out there, and I get that. But today I'm not really talking as much about that. I'm not talking about the Franklin Grahams and the Ted Cruzes and the The Ken Hams and the Kent Hovens and the Marjorie Taylor Greens, these public figures and, cult leaders. I'm not talking about David Miscavige, etc. The Proud Boys. I'm not talking about those people today. This is something else. In my day-to-day interactions with everyday people, how often have I simply tossed gasoline on the fire? Not engaging to change minds or even communicate, to try to find my way or our way to a better idea as members of the human condition. How often had I simply been trying to win? So down comes the blitzkrieg of tweets and snarks and call-outs and, declaring war upon my enemy, even though I know almost nothing about many of these people, right? I just see the avatar and a handle or a name. And then how often have I become a binary thinker? I'd become a zealot, a kind of extremist. I just immediately pinballed to, you're one of the worst people in the world. You are now a declared dehumanized enemy, and I have committed myself to your destruction. Is it really all nothing, best, worst, A, B, 100%, 0%? Am I and have I been a dogmatist who's branding the heretical? I go after the Christians for shunning and burning heretics at the stake. Why would I allow it in my own camp? Have I become a group or a subgroup or a subgroup, increasingly insulated and isolated in this ever-shrinking pod of polarized ideological purity? I see Christians do this to atheists, and we freak out, right? We freak out. I don't fit into a cookie cutter. You can't put me on a bumper sticker. I'm not a single thing. We atheists are a wide spectrum of humanity that cross ideological and cultural and human boundaries. We are so diverse out there. You cannot make us any one thing. How dare you? And then what do we do as atheists with Christians? We turn around and do the same thing to them. All Christians are stupid. All Christians are bigots. All Christians are Nazis. I've actually heard that one a few times. Extreme thinking, extremist thinking. Okay, fine. Let's address this idea that all Christians are stupid and terrible and white supremacist and traitors and awful, right? Well, how does that jive with people like Pastor John Pavlovitz? Now, John and I disagree about a lot of things. We disagree specifically about a literal Bible. He's always quoting about how the Bible is not anti-gay, etc. I think he's custom-fitted his own Christianity. But read anything he posts, and he posts a lot, especially on Twitter. You will see someone who aligns with us in terms of our values, fighting for goodness and justice and equality. Right? He is an ally. State-church separation. That's John Pavlovitz. He's a pastor. He's good people. He and I are on the same page. Dr. Kristen Dumais. She teaches theology at the university level. She wrote a book about Christian nationalism. Jesus and John Wayne. She's on our side in terms of justice and goodness and state-church separation. She is, in fact, an ally, and she's a friend. I think she's an amazing person. What about the diverse assembly of reverends and bishops and pastors and religious leaders who are behind the organization Christians Against Christian Nationalism? These people are overtly pastors and religious leaders, but they don't think their God needs to have a nation. They don't think that the United States is a Christian or should be a Christian nation. So even though they are religious people, they align with us. They are on our side. We are all on the same team for justice and goodness and defeating bigotry and defending that state church wall. We are on the same team. So I know this guy, I'm thinking of a guy, hugely frustrating guy. A Christian nationalist, Bible literalist, evangelical guy. Oblivious to racial issues, the injustice, racial inequality out there, who was a Fox News watching right-wing Rush Limbaugh, Christian nationalist bigot, bigot against gay people, who was an opponent of reproductive choice, who loved the death penalty, who was a science denier, an evolution denier, thought about Muslims like they were all extremists, Muslim equals terrorist, that kind of thing. Didn't know any atheists, didn't want to know any atheists because, of course, they're evil. They are the enemies of God. Frustrating guy, frustrating human being. And interestingly, that human being was me just a few short decades ago. Now, was I a horrible human being who needed to be destroyed? Or was I a victim of bad ideas? Was I naive? Was I brainwashed in some ways? Was I evil? Or was I just tragically, horribly wrong? What if people had written me off? What if they'd cast me out? What if they discarded me and thrown gasoline on me and set me on fire and committed themselves to my utter destruction for the rest of my life? Imagine if I'd gone on Twitter when I was doubting or having questions or even defending the faith, right? If Twitter had been a thing back then, a real big thing, how would I have been treated? I would have probably been mobbed. People would have just come down on me. I can't imagine what I might have done. Would I have retreated? Would I have doubled down and just run back to the safe cocoon of my religious culture? They welcomed me. They treated me like a person. They were my group. I felt safe. Would I have rushed back to that? I honestly don't know. I really don't. I have to wonder. I'm so thankful for those, though, who didn't throw gasoline on me and set me on fire and treat me like I was an idiot and commit themselves to my destruction. They took the time to talk with me. Even when they disagreed with me, they disagreed in good faith. They encouraged me. They didn't jam me into a cookie cutter. They realized I wasn't a bad person. I had just embraced some bad ideas. And they were patient as I slowly emerged into better ideas. In my own life, I've had to remember my younger self, and I've committed myself to a few solutions when it comes to my engagements, rehumanizing the human beings out there. Slow down, Seth. I'm always saying this. Slow down. Measure your steps. Resist the urge to jerk at the knee. Don't feed the trolls. Don't demonize everybody who commits the heresy of disagreeing or being wrong. Take an even stride. Get the facts. Try to learn more about your interlocutor. Get some perspective. Pursue understanding. Don't sacrifice. Don't lose your empathy. Don't lose your humanity. I don't want to be the guy who's screaming from behind the wheel, "You idiot! Where did you learn to drive?" and then sit there and do nothing to solve the problem. I just don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be part of the problem. I don't want to sit back and dispassionately observe the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And I think that begins with seeing each other not as an anonymous thing or other, but a flesh and blood person connected to me as part of the human condition. Ultimately, we have to consider that we're talking to people, not things, not just the two-dimensional things that cross our flat screens. And I think as we work for a better world, we need to commit. We're going to have to make a conscious effort to reconnect with each other as human beings, including connection with many people who might be wrong, tragically wrong, about the issues that genuinely matter, without losing ourselves to incessant, nonstop, frothing rage. I like that quote by Ingersoll. He said, "We rise by lifting others." Now, sometimes in this life, we have to burn a bridge. It's true, you have to burn a bridge, but it feels so much more satisfying to build one. Sometimes you have to curse the darkness, but it feels so much better to shine the light. Sometimes we have to defeat and crush an enemy, it's true. But it feels so much better, so much more satisfying and gratifying to develop an ally instead of an enemy. Then I think one of the reasons that we react and sometimes overreact is because we give a damn. I appreciate that. I really do. A lot of times the reason we get into it is because we genuinely care. But I think that requires perspective. And I think it also deserves some encouragement. And for that reason, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Pastor John Pavlovitz, he wrote an article a while back called An Open Letter to Those Who Still Give a Damn. He said, "You are in good company, so be encouraged. Fight like hell to keep your heart soft, even while so many people have become hardened. Yes, the world is upside down right now, but we can make it right one beautiful act of decency at a time. Get some rest and keep going. The world needs people like you. Blessed are the damn givers, for they will right side the world." Thank you so very much for allowing me to speak today. Take care.
Well, that was terrific. We will be sending a thank you gift to Seth for his wonderful pre-recorded presentation soon. And before we open the discussion section of this presentation, I remind the audience that the Freethought Society depends on donations to continue to offer educational programs and speakers who enlighten and motivate. And please see the chat section of the Zoom for a direct link to the Freethought Society's donation page. Any donation amount would be helpful. And now Michael Stephen Martin will tell you how to participate in the discussion session.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. If you would like to ask or participate in the discussion, ask a question or participate in the discussion, while being spotlighted, please use the reactions raise hand function in your Zoom window. It will put you into our queue and we'll call on you in the order of the hands raised. So again, if you use that hand raise function, if you have a question, it will put you in line and we'll call on you in the order received. If you would prefer to ask a question or make a comment, but you don't want to be spotlighted or use the hand raise function, you can message me in the chat. You can send a message to me, Michael Stephen Martin, and I will happily ask your question on your behalf or make your comment for you. I see we do have a hand up right now, Jeff Brooks, so I will ask to unmute you and let's have your comment, Jeff.
Oh, comment. Oh, can you hear me? 1, 2, 3.
Jeff Brooks, okay, yeah, unmute. And do you have a camera going? Would you like to join us on camera, Jeff?
My 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 test.
Yes, is this Jeff? Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi bandwidth prohibits video. I can put my picture in the chat if you want to see me and my TED Talk. Oh
yeah, please, let's have your question, Jeff.
Speaker mention church versus state. I didn't see that on your webpage issues list. There was about 15 issues on your homepage.
Margaret, is that something you can speak to?
Sure. Well, we are involved in separation of church and state. We have many articles in our e-zine. If you'd like to get a complimentary e-zine, you can send us an email or sign up through the website. And you'll see many articles that address the many issues regarding separation of religion and government. You can also look at our archives. We've been involved in quite a few cases. Personally, I've been involved in several federal cases about separation of religion and government.
Well, my question, so the answer to the question is yes, that is one of your issues.
Oh, yes.
So I'm asking anybody you know, anybody, the 66 people I'm talking to right now know, would you lift a finger to help a church and state issue when the word cult is on a top scientist's webpage? He's identified a cult, and I'm quoting him now, one of the most common causes of suicide, that's death, one of the most common causes of suicide, the therapist. So in other words, quack shrinks.
That sounds like a very
licensed by.
Yeah. This sounds like a very complicated issue. If you would like
No question. Anybody want to help? Yes, no.
No, it's not.
Yes.
there are many things that are involved in presenting a case. So I would ask you to write out your particular complaint. I'll make sure it's forwarded to the people that would be most helpful to you. And, putting it in writing rather than trying to discuss it with 66 people is rather difficult. So let's get the specifics from you and know that we are here to listen and help and guide.
It's not hard, it's easy. And so when I say lift a finger, some of you can just lift a finger and you would be helping, stopping the government from killing because of the cult.
The cult of psychotherapy?
I'll send you the links. I'll put the links in the chat of the scientists using the word cult. And the scientist, I've already put in the chat, I've already put the quote from the top scientist, one of the most common causes of suicide, the therapist. I've already put that in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being here too.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a comment in the chat section I will read aloud. It says, how can atheists with ambitions in policymaking improve our electability in a society of religious tribalism? And I imagine that's a question for Seth, but I imagine also for either you, Margaret, or anyone who'd like to chime in on that.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How can atheists with ambitions in policymaking improve our electability in a society of religious tribalism?
I think standing on a reputation of ethics and humanism is a plus. We are inundated with the religious nationalism, and it's going to be quite a subject this coming election. So we must be prepared to counter the claim that the United States is a Christian nation. I urge you all to read Andrew Sadel's book about Christian nationalism and look up books by Catherine, oh my gosh, I've forgotten her last name already, Catherine Stewart. And she does a great expose about Christian nationalism and what we're going to be up against, have been up against, and will be looking at in the next election. So educate yourself is probably the most important thing you can do, and represent the cause with a lot of information and facts.
Okay, and I noticed, Sarah, you had your hand raised. I don't see it up right now, but if you still have a question.
I just had another comment related to, I don't remember who said it, but as far as electability and getting involved in decision and policy making, again, I think like was highlighted in the talk, we have to be careful to assume that anyone who happens to be a Catholic or a Christian or whatever their beliefs are is automatically going to just not vote for someone who has good ideas. I mean, a good example, would be even my family. We are very, very divided on certain issues, but when it comes down to voting, we can have a logical, calm conversation, and whether or not a candidate is a Catholic or a Catholic who actually goes to church, or Catholic in name only, or there's a big spectrum. So not doing the whole us and them. And I think there are a lot of people out there who would definitely support someone who has good ideas and good policy.
And another thing that I would advocate strongly is that if you're interested in moving the needle politically and want your concerns to be heard, you must lobby. You must get out there and reach out to your representative, your senators, anyone that is supposedly speaking for you. influence that person by contacting them, talking to them, expressing your concern, advocating for separation of religion and government, and let them know that their constituents are actually free thinkers and non-theists and people who are in the shadows right now, but we do have important things to say, and we want to protect our secular constitution. So lobbying is extremely important.
Now, usually during the Q&As, when we have the guest here, I can field questions live and in real time, which I can still do right now. I look through the chat during the presentation and look for any advanced questions. So please forgive me if anybody has asked questions that I have not seen in the chat. Feel free to let me know, either message me again or nudge me with a hand raise. Has anybody put a question in the chat that has not been read aloud? Or if somebody has a question off the top of their head, they can use the hand raise function and we can speak with you now. Louise, if you would unmute yourself and I will add you in with us. Hey, welcome. Nice to see you again.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you. I just had a comment on the issue that you were talking about, voting for somebody who isn't religious. And it's actually the complete opposite in Denmark or the Nordic countries in general. If you are a person who openly state that you are religious, you are less likely to be voted into office. People are not open about their beliefs regarding this because it's actually seen as a negative. And that is a paradox because we still have this, well, we don't actually have an official church-state separation, which is really weird because most of us are atheists, but or non-believers. So it's kind of strange, but we are very open about if somebody wants to be voted into office and they openly state that they're religious in some way, they really have a struggle in front of them. So it is kind of strange. We have this still church coupled to our state in a very artificial way. Because of an ancient law from 1600s, and that I think they're going to do something about that within the next 20 years. Yeah, it is really strange for me to see the opposite happening in the States. Yeah, but I really hope. I hope that there's progress in that way. And I love, Andrew's books and Catherine's books, and they really shine a light on those things. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for getting up in the middle of the night from Denmark to join us. We always love it when you're here. And I love your background. You always come up with the best backgrounds. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in July when I'm going to be visiting Denmark. So I really appreciate you so much, Louise. And Louise makes a monthly donation, and without her help, we wouldn't be able to put on these programs. So thank you so much, Louise. Are you going to be joining us for Friday the 13th again?
Of course. And I'll be wearing my t-shirt. So, yeah.
Do we have others waiting to discuss?
Yeah, I think there's a comment or two in here. Thank you again, Louise. Nice to see you again. Let's see. I noticed somebody asked earlier if anybody in here has ever had the pleasure of having gone on Twitter and had to suffer through all that. And there were some other people that joined in that they've never suffered through some parts of our social media. Let's see. There are some comments. I'm not sure if people are asking these as questions per se. Maybe I'll read a couple of them. And Margaret, it's my understanding that this video will go to Seth and he will field any questions that are for him and then we'll respond somehow?
Yes, either that or we'll take questions from the copy of the chat and I'll forward them to him, but please put your email address into your question so that he knows where to write the answer. Because emails don't appear on the chat, just names. So if you could kindly do that, we'll get back with you. And also, if you want to receive the publication, we'll need your email address.
All right. Well, I don't see any hands raised right now. There's, let's check the messages here. Someone mentioned, oh, go ahead, Margaret.
We can continue taking questions throughout even the social hour.
Okay. Maybe I can read a couple of these comments out loud. I won't read the person's name just to, for whatever reason, just to keep it as a comment. And if they want to engage, they can unmute. Somebody was asking, can we engage with people who ardently believe the Democrats eat babies and Trump really won the election? Let's see, someone else mentioned that they're bad with words and expressing themselves, that they would love to see some verbiage people could use to communicate with their Congress on various subjects that the Freethought Society champions. It'd make lobbying easier for those of us that aren't wordsmiths. Just a thought. Good comment.
Yes. I'd like to encourage people to join the Secular Coalition for America and the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Center for Inquiry and American Atheists, because they actually create the verbiage for the issues that we're concerned about. And they have on their national websites the ability to take your zip code, match it to your representative, and instantly send a message of concern to either your senator, your governor, your representative, or all three. So if you join these groups, you'll have an end to all the verbiage you would ever want to have. We also have training for lobby days, which is really fun. You'll get more information about lobby days through the Secular Coalition for America's website. And the Freethought Society participates every year with that, and we like to bring a large amount of people with us, because the non-theist community is actually very diverse. We want to take to our lobbying appointments representatives from the secular Judaism community, Hispanic freethinkers, Black non-believers, ex-Muslims of North America. We want that representation. We want our representatives to know that the non-theist community is comprised of a wide variety of people and thoughts and ideas. So I encourage everyone to look at that. Now, I do want to tell you something. This was great preparation for me, because tomorrow I have been invited to be a speaker at a Baptist evangelical church that is locally in my neighborhood. So I'll probably see a lot of people that I have encountered in my federal lawsuits, probably yelling and screaming at me or shunning me. But it's my opportunity to actually have them see me in the flesh, and I'll be able to talk to them about our community, what we stand for, who we are, finding our common thread where we can become friends, possibly working together on community projects. So I have a very short introduction speech for tomorrow, but I'm mostly going to take questions, and I'm looking forward to that very much.
Excellent. Someone in the chat mentioned if you're interested in becoming better at communicating with people you disagree with, please check out Street Epistemology. That's exactly what they do. And they may be referring to a book written by Peter Boghossian, I believe is the title, or there's a great book. What is the title? How to Become Atheist, A Manual for Creating Atheists. I think that's the name of it. Fantastic book I read a few years ago. Let's see. And someone is asking, maybe this is to you, Margaret, can you please put those 3 organizations in the chat, or a link if possible?
Great idea. And someone has their hand raised.
Yes, that is Kenita. If you would unmute yourself, Kenita, and if you have a video or a camera, we can put you on screen with us. There you are, Kenita. Welcome. And you are currently muted. I think if you, there you go. Perfect.
Hello. Gosh, I lost track of what the, as far as trying to engage on, are we doing more good if we just stay off Twitter, or to get on it and attempt to be a voice for reason on it? Because it seems like reasonableness is so easily drowned out.
I'm typing, so could someone answer that?
Yeah, are you asking, Kenita, is it worth bothering to even engage on that format because reason and understanding seems to go so easily out the window? Is it worth the attempt?
Right. Is it, is our being able to say, yes, I'm not on Twitter because it's not worthwhile, and maybe suggesting another forum? Or do we do more good by staying there and, being a raindrop in a rainstorm, trying to dilute the vitriol with some reasoned discourse?
Yeah, like Seth said, something like a needle in a haystack of haystacks, or a bunch of haystacks. It's definitely not for the faint of heart going on social media. I've found that out. I used to get on there years ago and debate when I was an early, deconvert and had gone secular and become atheist. I was on there all the time debating people on YouTube and getting, just like Seth said, it was so, I could so identify with it. And I would go in circles for hours, days, weeks, months with people, and they wouldn't budge, I wouldn't budge, we'd never get anywhere. And I did this for a few years very passionately. And the only person that I ever changed, the one Christian theist that I did change over time, I finally asked him, I said, what was it about our talks? What was it that finally allowed you to change your subject? Because he did become an atheist months into our discussion. In fact, long after we'd stopped talking, he was just going over the stuff we had talked about. And I came back to him and I said, what was it that I did? And he said, you were nice to me. You just spoke to me like a person. That's all it was. I just treated him like a person I was having a discussion with. I wasn't trying to say, you're wrong, you're bad, you're stupid. Initially, our discussions did start that way. It was heated when he and I first met. I've never met this person one-on-one, by the way. But anyways, over the months we got to know each other. I thought, I need a new approach with this guy. And I started just thinking, what if I speak to him like a normal person who maybe just, like Seth had, made a great quote, I wrote it down, a victim of bad ideas. What if this guy I'm talking to on YouTube is simply a victim of bad ideas? I was a victim of bad ideas. I used to believe the stuff that he believed. And so I thought, how would I want somebody talking to me if I was in my shoes and was reversed roles? And I just, spoke to him like he was an intelligent person and didn't try to get him upset. I just told him what I thought and believed and the way I looked at things. And it soaked into him over the months. And that was the one person I was ever able to turn around. So anyways, it's not something, I don't do it anymore. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely treating people like a human, I guess, works really well. So sorry, I didn't mean to take up all that space. Kenita, would you like to add anything more?
Well, I was, I guess how much of our time is it actually worth, right? The many hours that you spent talking to him, that one person about that, could possibly have been spent doing other activities.
Exactly.
On behalf of the secular community. So is it worth our time, or should we just bow out?
That's a good question. And I will say I don't have those conversations anymore. It's so rare and far between. So I do think that there can be a waste of time. There can be too much time spent doing that. So it's not something I engage in anymore. But if I do engage with a theist, I try to do it as though we're having a conversation. and just keep it friendly. So
We have a couple of hands.
yeah, a couple more hands going up. Thank you, Kenita, for your comments. And if you'd like to
Thank you,
comment anymore,
Kenita.
feel free to raise your hand again. Thank you. And let's see, Louise, you look like you're up first. Or was that Louise or Jan? I'm not, Louise, I think, is top on there. Asked first.
Yeah, it was just, thanks, Michael. It was just a comment
Oh, yes.
for Anita. Because as somebody who's got sucked into the whole Twitter sphere and TikTok and, you know, you name it, just like, and that's actually how I met and started talking with Seth and Andrew as well. So, I would say I actually believe it's worth it. And I wouldn't say the whole, you know, outrage part of it is worth it, because I don't engage in that. I specifically, when I engage with people, it's like what you said, Michael, talk to people like they're human, because they are human. And when it gets too heated, I actually back off, because then all of a sudden it doesn't revolve around the issue anymore. It's just name calling. Is just, you know, I want to kill you, you're bad, whatever. I don't want to listen to you anymore. You are an object for me to destroy and me to be right. And I don't, you know, I don't want to bother with that. And I actually think, yes, time is precious. But if I could just, you know, engage with just one person and make them feel as a human, in every day, I meet, you know, hundreds different people every single day in my line of work. And I am used to always starting our talk with a smile. And it's not the, you know, you're a woman, you should smile. It's the, I want to meet you. I want to see you. And if it gets to the point where people meet me with an angry face, I know that I can somehow disarm them with a smile. But I need to step off as well sometimes, or back off, because it drains me. And I'm afraid if we, as activists, we disappear from that sphere or area of social media, it will be an echo chamber for just, you know, people wanted to kill each other, you know, and talk about eating babies and the Trump wanting, you know, whatever. So I would say you should be careful, take care of yourself and your loved ones and so forth. You shouldn't waste all your time there, but sometimes you need to reach out to other people. And I would say I've learned, you know, have good relationships, you know, with both Seth and Andrew and some other people that I wouldn't have learned, you know, I wouldn't have gotten to know them if it wouldn't. And the reason I'm here today is actually because, you know, Andrew told me about your society and I got to know you guys. So it is worth our time to reach out across the divide also, I would say.
Very good.
And I would say care about what you're writing, because it sticks around forever. I will sometimes get emails that'll say so-and-so replied to your comment on YouTube, and I won't even recognize the title of the video, and I'll click on it and I'll go and read it, and I'll read something I wrote 11 years ago that somebody this morning responded to. And, you know, you better want to stand by what you wrote 11 years ago. I mean, things change, but you're going to have to stand by the stuff you wrote, or at least being able to explain it. And if you're being, you know, a right bastard to somebody 10 years ago, you may have some explaining to do now. So it's good to treat people that you are engaged with, that you disagree with, as though they're human beings who may just have some bad information, because we all have bad information. And if we have bad information, I mean, I want it pointed out to me. I don't want somebody telling me I'm stupid. I just want them telling me that I'm wrong and showing me, you know, in a rational, civil way that
maybe another perspective or nuanced perspective, or if they have another way of looking at it. And yeah, I would say if all of us, we've all been, young and stupid, and some of us old and stupid and whatever. I would say we don't get to be enlightened geniuses every minute of every day. Some only get 1 minute every month. And I would say we shouldn't, be a bit humble about that. We should recognize that everybody makes mistakes and everybody are a bit crazy sometimes. And if you say something that isn't accepted nowadays because we have another perspective, I said stuff like 20 years ago that I actually cringe about. I actually tell myself, how could I believe that? How could I say that? And I have a completely different. I was watching Pretty Woman with my husband the other day, and we were just looking at this, and that's Pretty Woman. That's a rom-com. That's fun from the 90s. And my 16-year-old son was passing us, and he said, "What is that movie about?" And I was explaining, and ha ha ha, and Richard Gere, and blah blah blah, and he was like, "Okay, that's a bit weird." And he really saw that movie. He was like, "I don't think that's appropriate." He was like, he really thought she's not empowered in any way. And he was really disturbed by it. And I thought, okay, my son, who is really, he doesn't, like the whole, you can get too appropriate sometimes. He thinks he wants to rebel against his mom, who's an activist and who's too politically correct sometimes. But he was like, "What? That is not okay. She's a person. She's not a thing for him to buy." So yeah. But yeah, sorry, I've taken too much time. Sorry.
Oh, great comments. Thank you, Louise. Raise your hand if you have any more. I see we have Jan on deck. Jan, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's add you in here. Welcome.
Hi, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
And real quick, Jan, before you get going, if anybody in the chat has a question, if I've missed it, if you have just thought of something new you want to ask, please send me it in the chat. Please ask or please say. You can put it on I'll read it on your behalf. If I missed it, forgive me. There's a lot of activity in the chat today, which is great, but I may have missed some questions. So please feel free to ask again. Use the hand raise function. And here we go, Jan.
Okay, yeah, these comments are more for clarity of my own thinking. I just want to be very careful not to paint Christianity with a broad brush, and just a little feedback from, I guess, Margaret and both, and you too, Michael. So let's just say, are you as an organization trying to convert, if you will? I guess what I'm struggling with is that I guess in a perfect world, what I would like to see is that Christians, or no matter what religion you are, that you can use reason. In other words, I don't want to broad brush, well, you're a Christian, therefore, you aren't reasonable about things, and you're a Christian. Oh, therefore, you're on the side of the January.
Oh, Jan, you accidentally muted yourself, I think.
Oh,
there you go.
I don't think I was muted all the time.
sorry.
So, yeah, I would just like to get your, because I certainly don't feel that way. I understand that there are factions in the United States that, I'm not all that involved, so I'm not exactly sure what their intentions are, but I get a good enough feel for what is going on. But I just want to be very careful and actually it was Louise's comment that really kind of got me started on this. Wow, that just blew my mind to hear that or I guess in all the Nordic countries, or just in Denmark, I'm not sure, I can't remember, that if you have anything to do with religion, you're not electable or you're not allowed to run. That just kind of blew my mind. So I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling now, but I mean, my own personal philosophy is that, and maybe I'm just looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, and to me, I don't want to line up in another way for a division. You know, we've got the rationalists and the free thinkers and the secularists over here, and then we've got the Christians on the other side. I mean, that just really is so antithetical to my personal way I want to be in the world. A baby girl. Okay, I'm going to go on mute now because the cat is.
But, you know, Jan, you brought up a very good point. One of the reasons we love the word Freethought Society is that it's so welcoming to just a broader spectrum of people who are thinking freely. You know, I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to be in this church and they're going to say, wait a minute, I'm a free thinker too. I just free thinkingly believe in God. And I respect that because they've thought about it. They've examined the evidence. They're holding on to their belief. And who am I to tell them they're wrong? I'm not there to deconvert anyone. I will not be there to demean anyone. And I want them to understand that forming an opinion about religion is really a process. It is a conclusion that is formed after you've examined the world. I'm going to give them the idea that reading will be very beneficial to open their minds to other other thinkers. I'm going to mention Robert Greene Ingersoll. I'm going to mention Thomas Paine. I'm going to talk about Bertrand Russell's influence on me. And hopefully, you know, they will all see me as a person who examined, a person who made a conclusion based on evidence and rational thinking. And that's all I want from them. And I think that would be our common ground, is that we are all able to free think. Some of us take one path and some of us take another. Thank you for your comments, Jan.
Thank you.
Jan. There's a comment in the chat I'll read out loud. Maybe Seth can respond to this, or if anybody in the room has anything to say. Someone's asking, are there any statistics about efficacy of different platforms and persuasion techniques? Would be great to treat this problem scientifically. And Margaret, there was someone in the chat asking if they could somehow email their question to Seth, or if they could send it to us and we could send it to them. Can you speak to the chat room on how to get questions to Seth beyond this program?
Yes, he accepts emails through the Thinking Atheist. I can cut and paste his email address as soon as I can, and I'll put it in the chat, and feel free to contact him directly. You don't need us as a middle person to be in touch with Seth. And we would love for him to know that you were at our event and that you enjoyed it. So I'll put that in the chat real soon.
Excellent. So we are down to the last few moments. If anybody has any last minute questions or comments, if you'd like to raise your hand, speak up, unmute yourself, this would be the chance to get in your comment for Seth or for the group. Oh, I see 2 hands went up. Louise Danielson, if you could unmute, and we will join you in here with us. Oh, if you'd like to start video.
Just a short comment.
Yes.
I would recommend reading some of Seth's books about how he got from where he was, that type of thinking, that bubble he was in, to where he is now. It's been a funny and long journey for him. So I would definitely recommend some of his books.
He's great. I love his presentations. I think he has the most marvelous voice. I wish he would read bedtime stories. Wouldn't he be a great bedtime?
He has these horror stories that he does in fall, where he does these amazing, because he has a really great voice, and Andrew calls it, I think, velvety smooth. I think it is. So yeah.
Yeah, you could almost listen to him give you bad news and it would still sound okay. All right, and I see Jeff Brooks has a hand up. Was that the end of your comment, Louise? Okay, thank you so much again. Jeff, let's add you in here.
I put a link in the chat to the documentary by the UC Berkeley professor, George Lakoff, who's similar to Noam Chomsky. He made a documentary on how we've been brainwashed, that using the courts to do like things like church and state or too difficult. So I'm guessing that everyone here has never sued, has never won, and just thinks it's too hard. And I'm here to tell you, you can lift a finger. The easiest, my last comment, the easiest way to win in court is simply to join a class action. And by just saying, me too, you win. So it can be extremely easy to win in court. Because if you join a class action and say, me too, and the class wins, you win. So it can be very easy to win in court.
Okay. Thank you for your comment, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any others?
Yeah, we've posted Seth's email address a couple times in the chat for anyone interested in sending anything to him. It's seth@thethinkingatheist.com. And last chance for any hand raises or last minute questions.
And if I don't see any, I'm going to, we're going to have a little soft goodbye. I don't see any. So thanks for running the question and answer session, Michael, the discussion section, I should say. You always do such a great job. And we thank you for also being a co-host and an excellent Zoom technician. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Seth Andrews for the time he took to record and send us his wonderful presentation. And a big thank you to Freethought Society board member David Rice for his welcome and overview of the Freethought Society. We enjoy bringing you these Zoom presentations, and there's more to come. So please join us on Friday, May 13th at 3:45 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time or 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, when we present the very first Frigatriskaidekaphobia Treatment Center International Educational Seminar. We will host 3 excellent speakers. The first speaker will be social activist Babu Goganini, who will tell us about superstitions that prevail in India. Next, Freethought Society board member Norm Allen will convey the many superstitions that prevail in Africa. And he witnessed these things. He dealt with these superstitions throughout his 30-year career as the founder and president of African Americans for Humanism. The keynote speaker is author Stuart Vaz. Stuart is an American psychologist, teacher, speaker, and author who specializes in critical thinking and belief in superstitions. His book, Believing in Magic, The Psychology of Superstition, won the William James Book Award of the American Psychological Association and has been translated in Japanese, German, and Romanian. So please see the Freethought Society meetup description and website for more details about the May event. And for those of you who would like to stay and socialize, we're going to take a short break and meet you back here. And I'm going to pour myself a glass of water, pour yourself any drink of your choice, come back and chat a bit. Now, if you're leaving the room to refresh, please turn up the volume of your device to enjoy the break music provided by my dear friend, Abraham Steve Mackey. He is singing John Lennon's Imagine, which we consider a Freethought anthem. So see you soon.
Before I click play, Margaret, someone in the chat would like you to say Frigatriskaidekaphobia 3 times fast.
Oh, that's easy. Frigatriskaidekaphobia. Frigatriskaidekaphobia. Frigatriskaidekaphobia.
You got it.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. Wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. Brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you join us, and the world will live as one.
All right.
I love that song, and I really think Abraham does a marvelous job with that. And so welcome to the Freethought Society Social Hour. I see a few folks are staying with us, so let's conduct a self-introduction. You can tell us your name and where you're from, and that way we can get to know who's here, and we'll have a lot of fun discussing other things. If you want to go back to the subject at hand, please feel free. And so I'm going to just call out some people that I see.
And everyone has been muted. Feel free to unmute yourself now if you'd like to. And you can turn your cameras on. Join us and we can all see each other. Feel free to turn your cameras and audio on.
Yeah, and first on my screen is Louise. All of you met her earlier. She is so wonderful. Thank you for joining us again, Louise.
Yeah, Louise, thank you for all your input as always.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here from overseas other than Louise? Anyone from outside the United States? I'll take that as a no until we hear further.
So Joseph, do you want to introduce yourself?
That's me, I guess. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Joseph Bork, and I live in California. And I turned into the program rather late. I'm sorry, but it kind of goes along with my thinking I've been doing for quite some time now. And I really enjoyed the song by John Lennon. Kind of the first time I really listened to the words with what I've been thinking about, and find that it's very agreeable and kind of should be a standard bearer for free thinkers and new atheists and people that like to think about reason and hope for the world.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
I think one of the great things about hearing a cover song is that you get to hear the lyrics anew and maybe hear them in a new way that you don't get to appreciate when you hear a certain song over and over and over and it just becomes so familiar. But when you hear someone else's take on it, the lyrics can really take on a whole new significance.
When we do a live event, I actually print the words of Imagine and distribute them. And at the end of our event, we all stand up and sing it along with John Lennon. And it's always touching and beautiful.
Very good.
Well, we do a lot of events in California, actually, Joseph. So maybe soon, now that the pandemic is waning, we can actually meet you in person. I'm planning the Secular Day of the Dead to be sort of a hybrid this year, where we do it online, but actually live. So I'm looking at restaurants in Los Angeles right now. Where do you live in California?
Well, I'm in Northern California.
Oh,
on the outskirts of San Francisco.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Wonderful area.
So I see someone named Sarah. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Sarah, mostly from Chicago area, but I've been living in San Diego for the last 6.5, 7 years.
Wow. And how did you hear about this event?
I was on Meetup and saw some interesting groups and just signed up for a lot of them and just never had the courage to actually make a priority to get to anything. So I'm glad I did.
Good.
Sometimes it just takes one.
Yeah, we've done a lot of events in San Diego, including Michael. Michael runs a wonderful group in California, the Dabblers, and he gets people together all the time in person. And one time he got a group together to go to our Secular Day of the Dead in San Diego, and then you arranged for everybody to go to a comedy club after that, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, atheists like to have fun.
and eat.
And eat.
So I see Lori Tanner. Are you there, Lori?
Hi, delighted to be here. I'm a first timer. I got your email earlier, and I had the presence of mind to forward it to my brother and my sister, and then unfortunately I dozed off into a nap, so I missed much of it. But I came in just as Seth was wrapping up and when the interactive session began. But I see that it was being recorded, so I'm trying to figure out where I can go to view the whole thing.
Yeah, we're going to put it on the Freethought Society YouTube channel. And I do a little editing before I post it. So it'll be a nice, clean presentation. And if you, I don't know if this happened to any of you, but there was a lot of buffering when I was watching Seth. I think it was at his end, but I don't know. When I put it into the YouTube recording, I'll make sure it's the original submission. So hopefully it'll be nice and smooth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Where do you live?
I live in Connecticut.
Oh, very good. There's an event that you might be interested in. Connecticut is not too far from New Rochelle, New York. Do you know
Right,
how?
right.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting on a Thomas Paine Festival in New Rochelle, New York in June. And the event is going to be incredible. It's going to last for 3 days. So we're starting off with a tavern night on Wednesday, and then Thursday we're going to do a symposium all about Thomas Paine and his importance. Then Friday we're also putting on a dinner playhouse where the life of Thomas Paine will be portrayed by actor Ian Ruskin. Then after that, we'll have a giant festival on the grounds of the Thomas Paine Cottage. And it'll be geared to family entertainment. We're going to have speakers, and Congressman Jamie Raskins submitted a video with words of welcome. And so it's going to be really fun. I hope you can make it in person.
I got a detailed notification about it, and it's on my calendar. I will be there.
Great.
Thank you.
Margaret, to my ears, the term tavern night sounds like happy hour at a bar.
Yeah,
is that what you're doing?
We're giving tickets to wine, beer, and appetizers, and most of it's going to be, like $2, $3, $4, and it's just going to be a great time to socialize and get to know people who have an interest in Thomas Paine in that area. So I see Susie. Would you like to say a few words, Susie? Okay. Well, we acknowledge your presence, and we hope you had a good time.
And if anybody's interested, you can change your view setting to gallery, which will show you everybody in the room with us right now.
Yeah. Pamela, would you like to say hi? You're muted, dear.
There you are. I'll just say hello. Don't have a big comment or anything. Hi there. Yeah, I did like the presentation. I would have liked him to be here, but I understand. Stuff comes up. Yeah. But yeah, it was a fine presentation. So I don't know what else to say. I don't really have a comment other than very nice, So great, that kind of thing.
Where are you logging in from?
I'm in New York City.
Are you? Mm-hmm. So maybe what my spiel about the Thomas Paine Festival will be of interest to you, because it's a hop, skip, and a jump from New York City.
Maybe. I did the March of Dimes walk today, March for Babies earlier. So I got, you're just in time for watching this. So that was good.
Well, thank you for participating in that. That does so much good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say. So
thanks for being here.
Wanted to say hi then. Thanks for inviting me to say something though.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I guess we have a few first timers today. Newbies. That's always good.
I remember there was a radio show that if you were the first timer, you'd hear the pop of a champagne bottle.
I don't have any champagne right now.
Neither do I.
There's got to be an easy way to get that sound effect quickly, but no.
Yeah, we'll work on that, right, Michael?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can get the bubbly pouring next month.
Anyone else would like to say hi? Hey, Carl Silverman is here. Carl.
Hey, Margaret.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, with you spending so much time out in California nowadays, I thought you were sort of packing it in on activism, but you're going as strong as ever and you're looking as great as ever. So it's great to see you. And I've been down here in Florida for 8 years next month. Well, 8 years this fall. Wow. And just beginning yesterday, it started raining. The rainy season has begun, but it's been really beautiful down here, and I don't miss being up north at all, except my daughters are up there, so I get up there once in a while.
Well, I hope I'm in town when you come up. Maybe we could get together.
Yeah, I've got some traveling that I want to do next time I go up there. Normally, I just go to Pittsburgh where my daughters are, but there's a lot of stuff I want to do. And anyway, anyway, so it's been a long time since I've heard Seth or met Seth. I've met him several times, and it was great to hear him again. He's again a superb speaker, and thank you for bringing him on.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Let's see who else. Amanda Parks. That name sounds familiar to me. Are you there, Amanda? You're muted.
Let's see, I'll ask her to unmute. Maybe
I
she's out in the other room getting a bottle of champagne.
I also see Debbie Golden Davis. You're a Facebook friend of mine. Can you say hi?
Hi. Yeah, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I'm now in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh.
And we've got several free thought type of groups here, one of whom just sort of dissolved, but I ran right up to become part of the board in one of the Phoenix groups. And yeah, you always put on really nice presentations, and it was just nice to see Seth, because I just saw him at the American Atheist Convention. And as somebody just said, it's always great to see him. And pretty much anybody that the conventions or groups like yours put on are always well worth listening to and watching.
Thank you. Thanks for being here and keeping in touch with us on Facebook.
Yeah, somebody's got to still be on Facebook.
I see someone named Lamb, Lam, and I think it's AIF. AIF. Are you there, Lamb?
Maybe, maybe not. In the meantime, Margaret, I'll just reference a question from Jeff in the comments. He's asking, did you get an email about the dead link on our homepage?
Oh, yes, I did.
You did. Okay, so Jeff will be in touch about that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes. And Brian Anderson's here, our friend from California. Brian, did you know that I have a cousin named Brian Anderson? You'd have to unmute if you want to talk, Brian.
Maybe someone else drinking champagne. Margaret,
I heard a pop.
You heard a pop. Susie's asking you about your mellow cat, Margaret. Is that a mellow cat lying behind you?
It's a fake cat. I'm allergic to cats. So when I saw this cat for sale, it's actually, I think it's rabbit fur or something, but it reminded me of a cat that I used to have when I was a youngster. And because I have severe asthma, I can't have dogs or pets unless I have a hairless cat or a poodle. But with all my travels, I can't really take care of pets sufficiently. So I just have to enjoy what they look like. This cat does not require feeding or a litter box.
No scratch marks on the couch.
No, and I call him Godfrey. Did I hear Brian's laugh? Nope, still no Brian. Okay, I see. So I see someone named Randy. Hi, Randy Hetrick. And then there's a name that I cannot pronounce correctly. Can you tackle that one, Michael? Svetlana?
What was the name? Oh, Svetlana Sanik. I'm not seeing the full name here. Let me see.
Sanakova.
Sanakova. Svetlana Sanakova. Perhaps Polish or Russian, I'm guessing.
I'd be interested in saying hi to her.
Svetlana, or anyone, if you'd like to unmute to say hello, feel free. Let us know where you're from.
Yeah, because I've gone through the names that I can see. So I'd like to just, before I go to church tomorrow, is there someone in the social chat section of our presentation that would like to give me some words of advice? Would someone like to share what they hope I will talk about? give me some input. Anyone?
Hi, I'm Randy Hetrick.
Hi, Randy.
I'm actually at a wine festival in Arizona right now, so I'm walking around this wine festival. But anyway,
Randy, do I know
I'm jealous.
You know me, Michael.
Okay, I know you. I was wondering, you didn't have the video on, but I know your name. I know you now.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome, Randy.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this was great.
Are you out in Sedona?
I am.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah. But you
now
know,
I'm really jealous.
It is fabulous. But I was in, I'm changing the Okay. I read an article in The Atlantic recently. That is a great magazine. And it was a really good article. And it actually, the title was something like, "Why Are We Stupider Than Ever the Last 10 Years?" But moving along from that challenging question, one of the things that it said in the article was, that most of us are part of the exhausted majority. And I have decided, and I'm thinking about this with your talk tomorrow, that I'm going to stop talking about differences. I'm going to start talking about what do we have in common? What can we work on in common? What can we believe in common? What can we care about in common? Because, really, there's just on both extremes of any topic, you have people who, and we've been talking about this presentation and everything, people who are happy to create those differences and to highlight the differences. And I don't think we're going to make any progress as a country if that's the path we keep going down. So.
Yes, excellent. I've already incorporated that in my opening. In fact, the invitation came to me when I agreed to meet with I think he's a program director of the Baptist Church. And I said, why don't we start working together? Why don't we, do fill abundance, community service, food distribution, feed the homeless together? And he loved the idea. And I think that's what's going to be the thing that we have in common is we all want to do good. Some people want to do good because God tells them to, and some people want to be doing good because it's, ethically the good thing to do. And so I'm going there. I'm sure that he's going to be introducing me in that fashion. And I think that's going to set us off in the right direction right away. Because I really would, here's the other thing. We did actually organize in 2020 how we were going to do the Phil Abundance co-hosting of our community service. And he said, well, we're renting buses. We have a couple hundred people who are interested. And he says, so how many buses are you going to fill? Well, our group does not have, 100 people willing to volunteer for a full day. So I said, why don't we meet at your parking lot and we'll all travel together? And so he liked that idea. And unfortunately, it never happened because of COVID. But, it's things like that I think, Randy, are going to be very helpful in our communications, that we're open to that.
I think another one to be ready for that's important.
All right. Oh, Randy, I think we're getting some noise there. Maybe, there we go.
Oh.
No, Sarah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, just another thought about questions that you may get. I think a big one, kind of, you just alluded to a little bit as far as, doing things because God told me to, is ethics and morality. And trying to figure out, well, if God didn't do it and you don't believe in God, then where do your beliefs come from, and how do we know you're a good person?
Mm-hmm. Actions speak louder than words, for sure. And, I love the quote by Ingersoll, helping hands are better far than lips that pray. But, there's so many things that I can point to about having the confidence as a human being to feel that I can make the right choices given information. So, I'm not discounting that people have to have a fear of God or a fear of hell to make a right decision. Some people need that, unfortunately. But common sense and grasp on reality and humanism, you can't go wrong with that. You can make good decisions. And I wish people were convinced of this as children, that and given the confidence that they have common sense, that they have a duty to human interactions, to do good for goodness sake, to not have the fear of hell or fear of a God's wrath. So, or trying to make brownie points to go to heaven. If we could convince our children that this is our one and only life and that our legacy is our afterlife, then we can have children that are willing to do good in the here and the now. And when they realize that their legacy is what people are going to be talking about after they are going back to where they were before they were born, I think we'd be a lot better off in society.
I would say, Margaret, as well, the first thing you learn when studying negotiation is to find common ground. And in whichever way you can. It might be a banal thing. It might be just, I think that blue is pretty, or the grass is green, or it might be a tiny thing, but it makes people believe that you are somehow aligned with them. And I know negotiating is also manipulating. I'm not thinking of it in that way. I usually do that every single day because I handle contracts for a living. I'm a contract manager and sourcing manager as well. So, but I do it with an open mind. I actually want people to know that I'm trying to find common ground. It's not a hidden thing. So I actually tell people about it when we've spoken for a while and tell them, oh, I noticed that about you. And I really want to learn more about that as well. So we can talk because I'm interested in learning about you. So the common ground thing, I think is really good to mention. And I'm sure you will do excellent. They will have a great time, I'm sure, even though they will be skeptic. Towards you, probably.
I plan to be early and greet people as they walk in with a smile and, say, hi, I'm Margaret. I'm your speaker today. Thanks for coming. And, just look them in the eye and try to make that human connection. Good advice. Thank you.
Is it going to be recorded tomorrow, your presentation?
I'm going to ask. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think it would be kind of fun. And, I only wrote out the first 5 minutes of what I'm going to say because I'm going to open it for questions right away so that there's a lot of time for people to voice what they're bothered by or what they're curious about, or they might even come to me and want to find common ground in the reverse. So that would be great. I'll let everybody know soon. I'll probably put an article in the newsletter about this. So anybody else have anything they'd like to say, talk about? Otherwise, I'm getting a little hungry.
Yeah.
Because, atheists like to eat like everybody else.
Like late
That's
lunch.
That's common ground.
It's late lunchtime.
Can I just
go ahead.
I have a small thing. I just got a notice, 20 minutes ago, a Russian plane encroached our airspace. It just got chased off.
Good.
But for them to come here is a big deal.
Yep.
Because if they go as far as Denmark, which is, right now they're planning to do something about Kaliningrad, which is approximately 180 miles from the Danish border. And they're talking about nuclear weapons there, stationing those. So right now, Europe and the Nordics, we're kind of feeling this. And they are talking about on their national TV that Big Brother, which is the US, is not going to be able to help you in time. Be aware of this. So we're kind of a bit scared right now.
Well,
so we're hoping that,
Louise, I may be canceling my cruise in July. So, one of the major reasons I don't want to cancel it is so that I could meet you personally.
I would love to.
Yeah, but if it starts getting this way, I think we're going to have to bow down and say another time.
Louise, someone asked earlier not in the chat, but I think out loud, someone was asking, is it specifically Denmark or is it all over Scandinavia where if you hold religious beliefs, you're less likely to be elected?
Well, I would say it's typically Denmark and I would say Norway and Finland that are more atheist or non-believing driven, whereas Sweden, where my husband is from, they're more religious. So it's kind of okay for them to say, but mainly in the Nordics as a whole, we are very scientifically driven, and it's very, in knowledge societies. So it's kind of embarrassing if, I'm sorry to say, it's kind of embarrassing if you go out officially and say that you believe in this fantasy thing. You might as well just say, I believe that Gandalf is real, or I believe in Santa Claus. So it would be, I'm sure it would be better for people to say that almost. But it's not like they're shunned. It's more like we look upon them like, are you serious? You're a grown person and you're saying this? It's okay if you believe it. We're not going to, question that, and you're allowed to do it. But you seriously want to have this discussion in the open? I mean, you can talk about that, behind your own walls, but in the open, how is that any of our business? We had this discussion where our minister of church, that part of it is culture and church and something like that. She said, I don't believe in God. And there was this uproar in the religious communities. And so we can't have a minister that's that don't believe and who's not religious. And she was like, well, I am open to all kinds of religions and all kinds of culture. And she actually appeared in this photo shoot where she was dressed up as the Asgard, Odin and Frey and all of those. That was a photo shoot, and there was an uproar within the minorities, the religious groups, and they said, you can't do this. And she said, why not? This is the original religion for the Nordics, us believing in Odin and Thor and all of those. And so that's just another religion. But Christianity is our official religion. And she was like, it might not have to stay that way. So that was really thumbs up for me. I thought, great. Because I would say my mantra is, if people want to believe that the grass is God, just go ahead and believe it, as long as you don't hurt anybody else. Because if you hurt anybody else with your beliefs, I'm going to approach that. So,
So, Louise, I remembered talking to people in the international humanist community, and they were telling me that there are some countries that when you pay your taxes, you can designate your money to go to this church, that church, or to the humanist community, or to the government. Is that the case in Denmark?
Well, usually it's kind of that's where the paradox comes in, because we are a nation of non-believers, but we are, as I say, culturally Christian, because we do confirmations and we do baptisms and we do, Christmas and churches and so forth. And it's kind of, people find it cozy. They find it, that's just the way it's done. Nobody really, well, most of us really don't believe in it. So and then a lot of people don't get around to really doing something about that, choosing to use the tax money to go somewhere else, because we use about, I think it's 1% or 0.9% or something like that of our tax, which goes to the Christian church automatically when you're baptized. And for the rest of your life, if you don't, do something about it. But a lot of people just, they just leave it. Who cares? We don't bother anyway. We pay so much in tax, so who cares? So, we have these very old churches that are from, the 1100s and 1200s and so forth, from really way back when we became Christian. And they're really gorgeous buildings. And most of us really look at that as being, we pay so that they can remain standing. But I would rather see them being used for something else, and they are mostly these days. They're mostly used for, I would say, still used for services and stuff like that. But that's a handful of people sometimes, in some churches. And then mostly it's, cozy events that are done there that has nothing to do with the religion. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I would like to connect you to an Icelandic humanist who, when she moved to Iceland, she was appalled that the only baptism ceremony was religious. So she developed a secular baptism, or, coming of age. And about 10 years later, more people were going to the secular or registering for the secular ceremony than ever did for the religious one. And now Iceland is like 99% atheist. And they do still have ceremonies, but they're secular and they're not religious at all. So I'm going to connect the two of you.
Thank you. That'd be great. And it really is. But I would say more and more people are getting around to doing, making a choice, not just doing what's automatically chosen for them. So making a choice and actually saying, okay, actually, I am a non-believer. Actually, why am I doing this? Just because my mom or my grandmother tells me to do this. So it's really, because my son was non-formated, as we call it, as kind of a provoking the confirmation process. And we were talking about making, a Viking ritual, Viking coming of age. There's 3 trials you have to go through. You have to be able to sit on a horse. You have to be able to fell a tree. You have to be, there's tons of stuff. But and it was, he had his friends there, so we decided against it because it would be a bit embarrassing. But no, so it's really, having the courage to make a choice, or the time to make a choice, and not make somebody else make a choice for you. Do some thinking about what you would like your life to be. Because I had my mother was Baptist, so she belonged to a church which was very, stern and rigid, and my dad was a non-believer. And those two had some epic discussions surrounding religion. And I was kind of, you know, until I was 12, I was in the Baptist church. So I know it from, you know, within. But I just became a huge atheist after that, because I was like, nobody is going to tell me what to do. Nobody's going to tell me how to think. I will read and read and read and educate myself and talk to people and learn nuance and learn perspective every single day to know if I can uphold some kind of integrity. Integrity is the number one word for me in my life.
Love it. And generosity. Thank you so much for your
And
support.
champagne.
And champagne.
It's the Holy Trinity. It's the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, I tried to send a note to my husband to look for some champagne in the refrigerator, but he's logged off.
He's finishing the bottle himself. He's not sharing. How is Tom today? I thought maybe we'd see him in another room.
He was here. I saw his name.
Oh.
But he didn't have his camera on, so he might have just been listening. But thank you all for joining us. It was so much fun to talk to each of you and get to know you a little better. And I so hope that I will see all of you sometime or another at a live event, maybe in Denmark.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you coming and joining in our festivity of celebrating free thinking and philosophy and comradeship. And I look forward to seeing you all on the Friday, May 13th at our Frigga Triskaidekaphobia event.
Sounds good. Yes. Someone asked, is this recorded? It is being recorded, and it'll be available on the Freethought Society's YouTube page, Margaret, in a week or two?
Yes, hopefully.
Okay.
All right.
As soon as we log off here, I'll get that recording off to you so everyone can see it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, nice to meet
Good luck tomorrow, Margaret.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend, everybody.